The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Mara Ellison had been sitting in the cramped kitchen of her apartment on New Denver Station, eating cold noodles and reviewing her acceptance to the Terran Agricultural Institute, when the second message pinged into her inbox. It bore the crest of the Galactic Union Academic Board, a silver spiral on a field of deep violet, and the subject line read, Enrollment Confirmation, Veron Academy of Strategic Combat Sciences, Class of 2847. She stared at it for a long time. Then she looked at her noodles. Then she packed a bag. The Veron Academy sat in high orbit above Carith 4, a gas giant whose storms had been raging for 11,000 years. The station itself was enormous, a jagged structure of black alloy and reinforced transparasteel that looked less like a school and more like something built to survive one. Which, Mara learned on arrival, was precisely the point. She was the only human in the intake shuttle. The other cadets, 17 of them, ranged from a pair of towering Dreth warriors whose exoskeletons scraped the ceiling, to a Velkai who communicated exclusively in bioluminescent pulses, to something with 12 eyes and a quiet, unsettling stillness that Mara chose not to examine too closely. They all looked at her the way people look at a small animal that has wandered into traffic. "You are aware," said the Dreth nearest to her, in heavily accented standard, that this academy has a 43% non-completion rate. "I heard 60, Mara said. The Dreth blinked all four of its eyes at once. 61, if you count voluntary withdrawals. Great, said Mara. Less competition. Headmaster Kale Veyron was not what she expected. He was Talhari, tall, silver-skinned, with the particular stillness of a species that had evolved in low-gravity silence over hundreds of thousands of years. His eyes were pale gold, almost luminescent, and they tracked Mara the moment she stepped into his office with the focused intensity of someone watching a weather system develop. He had her file open on the desk in front of him. "Miss Ellison." His voice was like gravel wrapped in silk. "I've reviewed your intake documentation 3 times now, and I remain unable to explain how you ended up here." "Administrative error," Mara said. "I know. But I'm here now. You have no combat training. No military background. Your physiology is," he paused, selecting the word with the care of a man navigating a diplomatic minefield. "Baseline. I'm from Earth." Headmaster Kale Veyron set down his stylus. "I am aware. Earth holds a certain reputation." "Deathworld," Mara agreed pleasantly. "Third densest gravity in the habitable zone. 70% of the surface is a liquid solvent that corrodes most known alloys. We have weather events that exceed Category 12 on the Galactic Storm Index. Our largest land predators evolved to take down prey 10 times their body weight." She smiled. "We call them cats." The headmaster studied her for a long, quiet moment. "You may stay," he said finally. "You will not survive the first semester." "I appreciate the honesty," said Mara. "I'll see you at graduation." She did not have an easy time of it. That would be the wrong story to tell, the one where the human breezes through on grit and charm and everyone underestimates her until a triumphant third act. The truth was messier and harder and soaked in more than a little blood. The first week, she nearly drowned in the zero-G aquatic combat module. The second week, she dislocated her shoulder during close quarters drilling against a Dreth cadet who outweighed her by 400 kilograms. By the end of the first month, she had cracked 2 ribs, pulled every major muscle group in her back, and developed an intimate familiarity with the Academy's medical bay. She showed up to every session the next morning. The instructors had seen cadets push through pain before. What they hadn't seen, what most of the galaxy had never seen up close, was a human's relationship with recovery. Mara healed fast by relative standards, but more than that, she adapted. Every failure was data. Every bruise was a lesson. She didn't train like she was trying to win, she trained like she was trying to understand the shape of the problem, dismantle it, rebuild herself around it. "You came back," said the Dreth cadet, His name was something with 17 syllables that translated loosely as "tied that breakstone," which Mara privately found fitting, after she returned from the med bay following a particularly brutal tactical simulation. "Of course I came back," she said. "You were incapacitated." "I was inconvenienced," she corrected. "There's a difference." He looked at her for a long time. Then he extended one massive, armored forearm in the Dreth gesture of acknowledged respect. She bumped it with her fist. He seemed confused by this, but not offended. The thing about the Veyron Academy was that it wasn't designed for cruelty. Headmaster Kale Veyron had built it, had spent 40 years constructing its curriculum, its culture, its terrifying reputation, because the galaxy's most dangerous assignments didn't go to the strongest cadets or the fastest or the most gifted. They went to the ones who could keep their heads when everything fell apart. He watched Mara Ellison through the semester the way a scientist watches an unexpected result, with carefully concealed fascination. She failed the long-range weapons qualification twice before passing on the third attempt with a score that placed her in the top quartile. She developed an approach to tactical problem-solving that the instructors described, variously, as unconventional, chaotic, surprisingly effective, and please don't tell the other cadets she did that or they'll all try it. She made friends, or something like friends, with cadets who had initially written her off as a liability. Not because she won them over with charm, but because she worked alongside them without complaint, carried her weight, and occasionally, quietly, carried theirs. She had a habit that Headmaster Kale Veyron noticed after the second month, when a simulation went wrong, catastrophically, irrecoverably wrong, and other cadets froze or retreated into damage control, Mara got interested. Her whole posture shifted. Her eyes sharpened. She started asking questions. He pulled her file again at the end of semester 1. She had a 67% completion rate on modules. Not exceptional. Not even particularly good by the Academy's rigorous standards. But she had not quit. Statistically, she should have. The algorithms the Academy used to model cadet performance had projected her withdrawal at a 92% probability within 6 weeks of enrollment. They had updated that projection 9 times since. It currently sat at 4%, and even that, Headmaster Kale Veyron suspected, was wrong. The final assessment of the third year was called the collapse scenario. Cadets were dropped, individually, without equipment, without communication, into a simulated crisis environment and given 48 hours to achieve a list of objectives that had been mathematically designed to be impossible for a single operative to complete alone. The point wasn't to finish. The point was to discover who you became when it was impossible. Mara was inserted into a flooded industrial complex on a moon with 17-hour days and nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere and temperatures that hovered just above the threshold for human hypothermia. She had no tools. No weapons. No map. She completed 11 of the 14 objectives. No cadet in the Academy's history had completed more than 9. When the retrieval team found her at hour 46, she was sitting on a cargo crate, eating something she had apparently constructed from local flora and an emergency heat pack she had field stripped and repurposed, reviewing notes she had scratched into the back of a discarded data panel with a piece of wire. "What are you writing?" the retrieval officer asked. "Ideas," said Mara. "For the 2 objectives I didn't finish. I think I know where I went wrong." Headmaster Kale Veyron presented her with her commission at graduation in front of the full assembled faculty and cadet body. It was a ceremony the Talhari conducted with great gravity and very few words. He had, over 3 years, said very little to her directly. A comment after the aquatic module. A single nod when she passed her weapons qualification. The occasional unreadable silence in the hallways that she had learned to interpret as a form of acknowledgement. Now he stood before her, holding the insignia of a commissioned officer in the Galactic Union's Specialist Corps, and he said, "When you arrived, I told you that you would not survive the first semester." "I remember," said Mara. "I was wrong." He paused. The silence had the quality of something he had spent time choosing. I have been running this academy for 40 years. In that time, I have seen strength, intelligence, and talent in forms I could not have previously imagined. He looked at her steadily. I have never seen anything quite like stubbornness weaponized to this degree. Mara grinned. We call it determination on Earth. I know what you call it, said Headmaster Kale Veron. And for the first time, in 40 years of running the deadliest academy in the galaxy, he smiled. He pinned the insignia to her collar. The galaxy, he suspected, was about to find out what one determined human could do when nobody told her something was impossible in time to stop her. She never looked back.